For centuries, that question has sparked intense debate among historians, archaeologists, and believers. The biblical stories paint a vivid picture of a shepherd boy who becomes a mighty king, a giant slayer, a poet, and the founder of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. For many scholars, David was likely a myth, a foundational story created later to give a young nation a glorious past. But then, in the early 1990s, everything changed. Archaeologists were digging at a site in northern Israel called Tel Dan. It's a fascinating place, an ancient city gate complex. And there, they found a broken piece of a stone monument, what we call a stele. This wasn't just any old rock. It had an inscription on it, written in ancient Aramaic. And when they translated it, they found a phrase that sent shockwaves through the academic world, by David, which translates to House of David. Let's pause and think about how monumental this was. The inscription was on a victory stele, likely erected by an Aramean king, probably Hazael of Damascus, to brag about his victories over his enemies. And who were his enemies? The inscription mentions the king of Israel and the king of the house of David. This was the first time the name David had ever been found in a contemporary, non-biblical text from the ancient world. It wasn't a story written hundreds of years later. It was a political statement from a neighboring king who was actively fighting against David's dynasty. It's like finding a Roman-era inscription that mentions a rival kingdom ruled by the house of Arthur. Suddenly, David wasn't just a character in a book. The Tel Dan stele, as it's now called, is our single most important piece of evidence. Which is consistent with the biblical timeline. But the evidence doesn't stop there. Shortly after the Tel Dan discovery, another piece of the puzzle emerged. A French scholar named André Lemaire was re-examining another ancient inscription, the Mesha stele, also known as the Moabite stone. This one had been discovered way back in the 19th century. It's a victory monument from King Mesha of Moab, another one of Israel's neighbors, boasting about his accomplishments and his rebellion against the king of Israel. For over 100 years, scholars had studied it, but one line was badly damaged and hard to read. Sparked by the Tel Dan find, Lemaire went back and looked at it again with fresh eyes and better technology. He proposed a new reading for that damaged line. His conclusion? It also mentioned the House of David. Now, this reading is still debated by some scholars because the stone is so damaged. To separate enemy kings from two different kingdoms, both referring to Judah as the House of David. That's a powerful pattern. It suggests that David's name and legacy were the defining feature of that kingdom on the international stage. So we have these incredible inscriptions, but what about the kingdom itself? The Bible describes David and his son Solomon ruling over a vast, powerful, and wealthy empire, with monumental building projects. For a long time, archaeologists couldn't find evidence of this. They found small, rural settlements, but nothing that looked like the capital of a grand empire. This led to a theory called biblical minimalism, which argued that David and Solomon, if they existed at all, were probably just small-time tribal chieftains. And the stories of a grand kingdom were massively exaggerated later on. But recent archaeology is starting to challenge that view. In an area just south of Jerusalem's Temple Mount, known as the City of David, an archaeologist named Eilat Mazar made some stunning discoveries. She uncovered what she identified as a large stone structure. It's a massive public building, far bigger and more sophisticated than anything else found from that period. Mazar argued that this could be the very palace of King David described in the Book of Samuel. The pottery and other artifacts found at the site dated to the right time period, around the 10th century BC. Of course, There's no sign that says welcome to David's palace, so we can't be 100% certain. But its size, location, and date make it a very strong candidate. It proves that a powerful, centralized authority with the resources to build on such a massive scale existed in Jerusalem at that exact time. It wasn't just a sleepy village. And there's more. Not far from Jerusalem, at a site called Kirbet Kiafa, archaeologists uncovered a heavily fortified city overlooking Dela Valley, the very valley where the Bible says David fought Goliath. This city is remarkable. It has massive stone walls, two gates, which is highly unusual for the period and appears to have been occupied for only a short time before being abandoned. The dating, right to the time of David and Solomon. The style of pottery and the absence of certain types of artifacts suggest it was an Israelite or Judahite city, not Philistine or Canaanite. The very existence of such a strong, strategically placed fortress implies a powerful, organized state was in control of the Judean hills. This wasn't the work of a small-time chieftain. This was state-level planning and construction. It's exactly the kind of border fortress a new, expanding kingdom would build to defend itself against its enemies, like the Philistines down in the coastal plain. When you put all these pieces together, a new picture starts to form. We have the Tel Dan stele, an enemy's inscription that names the house of David. We have the Mesha stele, which potentially does the same. We have the large stone structure in Jerusalem, pointing to a powerful king's palace right where the Bible says it should be. And we have fortified cities like Kirbet Kiafa, showing a sophisticated, centralized state was operating in Judah during that time. Does all this prove every single story about David is literally true? Does it prove he killed a giant with a slingshot or wrote all the Psalms? No, and archaeology can never really do that. The purpose of archaeology isn't to prove or disprove the Bible. Its job is to reconstruct the world of the past based on physical evidence. What the evidence does strongly suggest is that the biblical writers weren't just making things up out of thin air. At the core of their stories was a real historical memory of a powerful founder named David, who established a dynasty and a kingdom that left a major mark on the ancient Near East. The debate has shifted. It's no longer about if King David was real. Most historians and archaeologists now accept that he was. The new debate is about the size and scale of his kingdom. Was he the ruler of a massive empire as the Bible describes, or a more modest, but still significant, regional king who laid the foundation for what would come later? This ongoing search is what makes history and archaeology so exciting. Each new discovery, each broken piece of pottery or faded inscription, adds another piece to the puzzle. The story of the historical David is still being written, not with pen and ink, but with shovels and trowels. It's a fantastic reminder that the past can still hold incredible surprises, and that sometimes, evidence for legendary figures can emerge from the ground when we least expect it. So, was King David real? The evidence says yes. The man behind the legend was very, very real. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the past, make sure to like and subscribe for more.